Hello students, welcome to this lecture series on network analysis. From today onwards, we'll be starting with our subject. So before we go to the subject, we'll go through the course objectives, which will define what all things you are going to learn in this subject of network analysis. So first of all, at the end of the course, you will be able to, first thing is analyze basic as well as advanced circuits. Okay, then use the concept of phasors and vectors for sinusoidal steady state analysis. Then you will be able to calculate resonance frequency for RLC circuits. The first 3 points you will be able to cover in the unit number 1. The first 3 course objectives we will be covering in unit number 1, which is the most in any unit. Okay, then you will be able to distinguish between cut set and tie set methods for solving various circuits. This we will see in unit number 2. Then comes apply various theorems to simplify the analysis procedure. This is unit number 3. And we will also relate this theorems part and the first unit part of analyzing basic and advanced circuits. We'll analyze basic and advanced circuits using KCL, KVL, mesh analysis, nodal analysis, and we'll also analyze the same circuits by using theorems so that we can easily see how the theorems are simplifying the analysis procedure. So we'll do the analysis part, we'll compare also in the first unit what we have done and in the third unit what we are doing. Okay, so we'll compare so that we can easily see what are the simplifications that we are getting using the theorems. Then comes you will be able to analyze the transients involved in AC circuit analysis, and you will be able to calculate the time constants of RL, RC and RLC circuits. These 2 points, studying the transients, analyzing the transients and calculating the time constants, these 2 course objectives we will be covering in unit number 4. And the last is you will be able to calculate various two-port parameters and relationships among them. This last course objective we will be covering in unit number 5. So these were the course objectives. Now we'll directly go to the subject, which is chapter number 1 or unit number 1, Introduction to Circuit Theory. Initially in this lecture we will be going through the basics, which you must have already studied in 11th, 12th or in the first year of engineering. So this is just a kind of revision for the people who have forgotten things or maybe who already remember all these things. So this is a revision part. This we will cover in a very short amount of time, and from the next lecture onwards we will be giving more time to the subject. Okay, this I'm revising because these are the essentials for studying our subject. So if you have forgotten these things, if someone has forgotten these things, it will be difficult for him to go through the subject, and because these are all related to each other. So it's better we revise some things in 5-10 minutes and then we'll go to our subject directly from the next lecture onwards. So the first point is the most basic quantity in an electric circuit is the electric charge, which is denoted by small q. Please note down the notations, because these notations are standard notations and you cannot change them as per your convenience. So these are standard, you have to use the same notations everywhere. Okay, so the electric charge is denoted by small q. Then the SI unit of charge is coulomb, which is denoted by capital C. Then comes the law of conservation of charge, which has 2 statements, you can say. One of the statements that you must have studied in your schooling also, the law of conservation of charge states that charge can neither be created nor be destroyed. This is the simplest statement, but in a better manner you can also say the total electric charge of an isolated system remains constant regardless of changes within the system itself. This is the law of conservation of charge. Isolated system means it is not getting any power or energy from any external source. From the external source it is not getting any any power or energy. So this is such a system is called an isolated system, and the changes that we are talking about in the system is like if you see the resistance heats up, so sometimes small changes in the resistance values occur. Then the capacitor and the inductor, when you apply some voltage to them, some source is connected to them, they start charging, and if they get a path to discharge, they start discharging also. So these are the changes in the system that we are talking about. So regardless of these changes in the system, an isolated system always has a total electric charge which is constant in nature. It does not change until and unless you apply some external source to it, in which case the system won't be considered isolated. Okay, so this was the law of conservation of charge. Then comes when the net electric charge of an object is non-zero and motionless. When the net electric charge of an object is non-zero and motionless. Motionless means it is not moving, it is stationary. If it is stationary and it is non-zero, then the phenomenon is known as static electricity. You all know that if an electric charge of an object is non-zero and these charges are free to move and they are moving inside the object, then you will have electricity inside it. So if they are not moving, then the phenomenon is known as static electricity. Okay. Even when the net charge is zero, it can be distributed non-uniformly due to an external electric field. This point you will also see in electronic devices and circuits. Okay, there also what we do is we apply a battery, we connect a battery, which in turn applies an external electric field in the whatever in the object or in the you can say semiconductor, which results in the charges getting distributed. Okay, there the charges are distributed uniformly, they are not non-uniform. Here we are talking about the non-uniform distribution. So in such cases, if the distribution is non-uniform in the semiconductor, it is uniform in nature. The distribution is uniform in nature due to an external electric field. But in case if we apply an external electric field and the distribution due to that external electric field is non-uniform in nature, then in such cases the material is said to be polarized. Okay, it is said to be polarized. You will learn about polarization and all those things in antenna, maybe in the 6th semester or somewhere. So there you will understand it in a much better and broad manner. Okay, for this subject, this much definition is more than enough. Then the charge due to polarization is known as bound charge. Okay, it is not moving, so it is called bound charge. It is bounded by the material itself, by the boundaries of the material, so it is known as bound charge. While the excess charge brought from outside is called free charge. The excess charge, when you connect wires to that object which is polarized, to the material which is polarized, and then connect that wire to a battery, to the two ends of a battery or a source, then the source gives you some charge that is known as free charge. Okay, so here we talked about two things, bound charge and the free charge. The charge due to polarization is known as bound charge, while the excess charge brought from outside is called free charge. Brought from outside means it must be a source which can supply you some free charges. Okay, so that the electricity can flow through the material. And then comes the motion of charged particles. Example of electrons in metals in a particular direction is said to constitute an electric current. Always, you already know that if the electrons are moving in a material in a particular direction, then there will be an electric current in that. So the motion of charged particles in a particular direction, it has to be in a particular direction. All the electrons should be moving in a particular direction to constitute an electric current. Okay, then comes the definition of electric current. Electric current is defined as the rate of flow of electric charges or electrons through a cross-sectional area. Basically, when the electric charges flow through a cross-sectional area, the rate of their flow is defined as electric current. By convention, the electric current flows in a direction which is opposite to the direction of flow of electrons. This you already know, that if electrons are moving from left to right, the current direction will be from right to left. It is just opposite. Then if Q amount of charges flow through an area in time t, then the current is given as capital I is equal to capital Q by small t. Okay, this formula is just for some numericals which are asked in different exams, but if you want to be very accurate, then we don't use this formula. We always use the formula in the differential form, which is given as small I is equal to d by dt of small q, rate of change of charge or rate of flow of charge with respect to time, which will give you the current. As the definition also suggests, it is the rate of flow of electric charges. Okay, so this definition is more accurate, but I am telling you the first definition also because it is asked in some exams. The numericals that are asked will be solved using the first formula only. That is the only reason I'm telling you the first formula. Otherwise, in cases where you have been given a charge in terms of an equation for a charge in terms of time, then you need to use the differential form of electric current equation only. Okay, the second equation. Then comes to move an electron in a conductor in a particular direction or to create a current, we need to do some work or we need to apply some energy. This energy or work is done by the potential or the potential difference. You all know that if you want to move an object from one place to another, you need to apply some force or you need to apply some energy, you need to do some work so that it moves from one place to another. In the same way, if you want to try and move an electron in a conductor in a particular direction, you need to apply some energy or some work. This work is done or this energy is supplied by the potential or the potential difference. You can also say potential means voltage, and another name for potential is voltage, which you must have heard a number of times, and the potential difference can also be called as the voltage difference. So these are just synonyms for each other, voltage and potential, and then comes voltage difference or potential difference. These are same one and the same thing. Okay, so that's what I have written in the next point. This is also known as voltage difference or voltage with reference to a selected point, which is called a reference point, such as an earth. Okay, we will see when we solve the numericals, there will be a point in the circuit which will be considered as a reference point or earth. The voltage of that point will be 0 volts and the voltage at all the other points will be with reference to that point only. The unit of potential or voltage is volt and it is denoted by capital V for volt. Then comes the potential of a point is 1 volt. This is the definition of potential of 1 volt. The potential of a point is 1 volt if 1 joule of work is done in bringing a 1 coulomb charge from infinity to that point. In the previous slide, we talked about a reference point. This infinity is that reference point only. So if we move a 1 coulomb charge from a reference point to some point, then its potential will be 1 volt if we need to do 1 joule of work to move that charge from a reference point to a certain point. So the voltage of a point is 1 volt if we move a 1 coulomb charge from a reference point to a certain point whose voltage is being calculated, and for moving that we need 1 joule of work to be done. Then the potential of that point will be termed as 1 volt. Okay, so the 1 volt potential is with reference to a point, a certain point, which is the earth or the reference point. Okay, then the second point, the voltage VAB, this should be capital V, in suffix it should be AB, where A and B are the points we are talking about. Okay, the voltage between 2 points A and B, that's what we are talking about. So these 2 points A and B, they come in suffix, so that we can know the voltage difference or the voltage between 2 points, which 2 points we are talking about. The voltage VAB between 2 points A and B is the energy or work W required to move a unit positive charge from A to B. In the same way that we were talking about, if we in the first point we were talking about a reference point or infinity. Here we are talking about moving a charge from one point to another. Okay, if we are moving 1 coulomb of charge or some charge, any charge, from one point to another point, and then the energy that is required to move that unit positive charge from A to B will give you the voltage between those 2 points, or the potential difference between those 2 points. We should say the voltage difference between those 2 points. So that will be VAB is equal to dW by dQ, where W is the work done that is required to be done, and then Q is the charge that is being moved from one point to another. Okay, this should not be actually a unit positive charge, this should be only charge. When you move a charge from one point to another and you apply some work to it, then the amount of work that is required to be done divided by the charge that is moved from one point to another will give you the voltage difference or potential difference between those 2 points. Okay, then comes the potential difference between 2 points is 1 volt if 1 joule of work is done to displace 1 coulomb of charge from one point to another. Okay, this is the same definition as the first one. The potential of a point is 1 volt. This is the potential difference between 2 points. That will be 1 volt if to displace 1 coulomb of charge from one point to another, 1 joule of work is needed to be done. Then the potential difference between the 2 points will be 1 volt. Okay. This was it for the this video. From the next video onwards, we will be needing a board. So I'll be using a board so that I can draw some circuits and diagrams which will help you in understanding what is loop, node, branch, mesh, and what are the differences between them very easily. So for that, I'll be switching the rest of the points to the next lecture. So this was it for this lecture. See you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.